like I hear the crickets do.
Now, as a vampire horror story, it's very obvious that there are lots of spiritual undertones. It's a story about spiritual warfare. And Mike Muse did an interview with the whole crew, and I'm happy that he took notice of the same scene I took notice of. It was the ride back from town where Stack had managed to get the blues harmonica and piano player. He brought them back. He brought him and some of his people back with Preacher Boy to town so that they could set up the juke joint. And then the story that they tell on the way, it's a scene in the movie, and it's very pivotal because music is used to foreshadow. Sorry, had to cut a call. Music is used to foreshadow things, and it's also used to set a tone. I think that scene began to set the tone for the things that were to come, because he told a story of a black man who was lynched because he had worked hard and successfully and legally, saved a lot of money. And when he was caught holding on to that money to use for legitimate purposes, he was accused of robbing a white man. And so he was lynched instantly, and lots of awful things were done to him because it was a lynching. And music was used to not resolve a trauma, but to help the character to grieve, because in all those years that trauma lived on. And then Preacher Boy began to play his guitar, and Slim began to sing.
To watch this,
Hearing that answer gives me such clarity and understanding of why it is that you did it. Because of the fact of music is such a spiritual transformation, right? That's why you set the scene with Griot in the opening credits, which is conjuring spirits and moderating spirits through music. That's very beautiful and beautifully said. And so there where I want to come to you, because he talked about two things about affirming blackness, right? And affirming black Americans during that time through the use of music. And your performance was phenomenal. I just wanted to say that outright. Everyone's performance was phenomenal, but there was a scene for me that stood out so boldly that transitions to what Ryan is talking about, and it was in the car. And it was a car scene. I think it was you and either Smoke or Stats. I apologize with that one. And Preacher Boy, and you are recanting this haunting story of this lynching that took place. But the way you told it, the cadence of your voice was very melodic, right? And there was this eerie hauntingness to it. And then you broke it with song. So if you could just talk to me about how you approached that scene, how you were thinking about that scene and about that character.
That scene represents something powerful about our history as Black people in the US. And there's a significance in why that scene was taken note of in the interview. There's an important reason why that character did that monologue and it was received the way it was. Because that scene emphasized the power of music, not just as a tool to vanquish evil, but as a thing unto itself, as a way that we use music to vitalize our spirits and conjure up our own power. Because in as much as it can open a portal to different forces, it can also invigorate us. It's not exactly the parallel to root work, but it can be seen as something that works in tandem with it and also in tandem with African spirituality. And the main theme in the story is that our spirituality is something that sets a light and sets a beacon in the world. It sends signals and waves. Whether it attracts forces that want to take good things from us, or if it connects us to those who paved the way before us. It's a salve on our hearts, and it's a medium by which we invigorate ourselves.
Missing him properly. Went back home for the funeral, but I would often find myself putting on those old blues records to remind myself of him, and it would almost be like I was conjuring him. Like if I listened to it long enough, and close my eyes, I could feel him like kind of listening along with me, maybe telling me a story again. You know, so when I got this idea to make this movie, I wanted to dive into like what Mississippi was, what that Delta blues music was, what was it about that region, and when I investigated it, you know, that this time, you know, like the late 20s, early 30s was really like that time when it really took off, you know, the blues as we know it, and a lot of mythology, a lot of spirituality, you know, a lot of the supernatural vibe is right there in the music.
Yeah.
In Mike's interview with the whole cast, I saw the beauty in the fact that Ryan Coogler made this community collaboration into a spiritual journey. It's about community and it's about working together with people to create a representation of ourselves. And a vampire story where we reclaim a narrative and we're not just objects of casualty, but we're agents of change. And I'm happy with the fact that Ryan Coogler made this a community progress journey, the same way he did with Black Panther. He also revolutionized horror, because usually the vampire genre tends to fall short in terms of stakes, in terms of inventiveness, in terms of narrative ideas, magical systems, and outcomes. But this story, it does something beautiful and it does something different, and it makes me proud.
And you know, once I unlocked that, it became fascinating for me, and I learned that this contribution, man, like the Delta blues, is really like America's greatest contribution to global popular culture. You know, and at that time, in that place, it was very hard to be black and be seen as a human being. You know, and through that affirmation, they gave the world a gift that you know continues to give, and it gives internationally. So with that, I kind of was like, man, I gotta make this movie big, man. That's why we shot it on IMAX cameras. I got the biggest movie stars I could find, you know, the best young talent to play Preacher Boy.
We've been gone a long time. We back now. You twins? Nah, we cousins.